You ever notice how people only listen when it's too late? Sirens wailing, buildings burning, hearts racing, and then suddenly everyone wants to do better. But not before. Never before. Now here's the twist this time. It's not the government, not some masked villain, not even fate. God said it. Yeah, the elimination has begun. And people, they're scrambling, clinging to their routines, their fake smiles, their precious little masks. Like that's gonna save them. Like pretending to be good ever meant anything. But see, the funny thing about judgment, it doesn't knock. It kicks the damn door in. Comfort, oh, that sweet little lie everyone keeps tucked under their pillow. Warm beds, predictable routines, coffee at the same time every morning, convincing themselves that order means safety. That if they just stay in line, keep their head down, play nice, the storm will pass right over them. That's the real joke. Because comfort, my friend, is the greatest illusion ever sold. See, people don't like chaos. They don't like noise unless it's a party. And they sure as hell don't like change. So what do? They build walls, invisible ones, around their lives, their minds, their morals. They tell themselves this is good. This is how it's supposed to be. They cling to schedules and habits like a child clings to a nightlight. Not because it's bright, but because it keeps the monsters away. But guess what? The monsters are already inside, living rent-free, in their choices, in their silence, in all the things they don't say when they know they should. You know what's really behind comfort? Fear. Not peace, not security, just plain old fear dressed up in a silk robe and slippers. People stay in broken jobs, fake friendships, toxic homes, not because they're brave, not because they're loyal, but because they're terrified of what happens if they leave, if they change, if they face the unknown. The unknown to them is a threat. So they wrap themselves up in routines as if that'll keep reality out. Cute, isn't it? And the best part, they think they're in control. That illusion of control, oh, it's delicious. They plan their futures like the universe owes them something. Like the ground won't shift beneath their feet just because they booked a vacation 6 months in advance. They sign papers, lock in mortgages, pop out kids, take selfies, update statuses. All of it to feel like they're in charge. But they're not. Not even close. They're just passengers in a car with no brakes, screaming directions at a driver who isn't even there. Now watch what happens when that illusion cracks. When the layoffs hit. When the phone rings in the middle of the night. When the person they trusted betrays them. That's when the mask slips. That's when all that comfort turns into panic. Eyes wide, breathing heavy. Suddenly they're praying to a God they forgot existed and begging for the very chaos they used to mock to show them a way out. But it's too late. The illusion already broke. And now they're standing in the ruins wondering how they didn't see it coming. But here's the real kicker. Even after all that, even then, most of them go right back to building the same illusion again. They patch the cracks, repaint the walls, pretend the earthquake didn't happen. Because it's easier. It's always easier to rebuild the lie than to live in the truth. The truth that things are fragile, that control is temporary, that nobody is immune. They don't want that truth. It's too loud, too raw, so they close their eyes and hum themselves back to sleep. People talk about ambition, success, happiness, but what they're really chasing is comfort, a comfortable job, a comfortable partner, a comfortable lie. Something that feels good enough to silence the screaming inside. They don't want to be challenged. They want to win at what coddled. They want the truth served on a soft pillow, with a side of approval and a pat on the back. Anything more than that, too much, too real, too dangerous. But danger doesn't wait for comfort. It doesn't care how neat your schedule is or how well you play by the rules. When it comes, it doesn't knock. It crashes through, flips the table, burns the rule book. But lies usually do. That's how they work. That's how they get in. They wear a smile and carry a warm blanket. Meanwhile, your soul's out there shivering in the cold, wondering why it feels so empty in a room full of everything you thought you wanted. Judgment, oh, that word makes people squirm. They picture some courtroom, some old man in robes, maybe a gavel, maybe some final speech where everything gets wrapped up nice and clean. But that's not how it works. No, judgment isn't polite. It doesn't shake your hand, doesn't send you a calendar invite or give you a heads up so you can clean up your mess. Judgment doesn't send invitations. It just shows up. People walk around like they've got time. Like consequences or delayed shipments they can track online. They do what they want, say what they want, hurt who they want, all with a grin and why. Because nothing's caught up to them yet. That's the trick. They think no noise means no danger. Like silence is safety. But silence is just the calm before the collapse. Judgment's not loud, not at first. It creeps in slow. Like a shadow on the wall, stretching longer the more you try to ignore it. And the best part, they always act surprised. Why me? They cry when the walls start closing in. As if they weren't the ones laying the bricks all along. They pretend like they didn't see it coming, like they weren't warned. But the signs were there always. They just didn't care, or they cared more about staying comfortable, about looking good, about getting ahead. See, people think judgment is something you face at the end, a finish line, a final exam. But it's happening all the time. Every choice, every lie, every silence that's being weighed, tallied, watched. Not by some cosmic referee. No, it's much simpler than that. The universe doesn't punish. It just reacts. People want to believe there's a big dramatic moment coming. A trumpet blast. A flash of light. Something grand. But judgment isn't theatrical. It's personal. It's that conversation you avoided. That apology you never gave. That look in the mirror you couldn't hold for more than 5 seconds. It's quiet. It's subtle. And when it hits, oh, it hits hard. Right in the middle of your perfect little day. Right when you think you've got it all under control. And what do they do when it lands? They blame the system. The parents, the friends, the boss, God, anyone but the one in the mirror. That's the real comedy, watching someone act like they're the victim of a story they wrote. Like the smoke just magically showed up, and they had nothing to do with the fire. They cry foul when the bill comes, forgetting they ordered the whole damn menu. People love to talk about karma, justice, balance, like they're just poetic ideas. But no, they're practical. They're mathematical. You don't need faith to believe in consequences. Just wait long enough, because everything circles back. Everything. And when it does, it doesn't care how nice you dressed it up. It doesn't care about your intentions, your image, your excuses. Judgment's not fooled by the show. It's not sitting in the audience clapping. It's backstage, watching who you really are when no one else is around. They try to outsmart it, delay it, hide from it. But you can't outrun shadow you're casting. You can't delete footsteps from the road you chose. People think they're clever. Think they can live 2 lives, one in public, one in secret, and never pay for it. But that's the illusion. That's the act. And every act, it ends, the curtain falls, the lights come up. And suddenly you're exposed, and then comes the panic, the begging, the desperate need to rewind time. But time doesn't owe you anything. It doesn't negotiate, it moves forward, and judgment rides shotgun. Watching, waiting, silent until it doesn't have to be. People spend so much time crafting stories, justifying, spinning. They say things like, I had no choice, it wasn't that bad, I was just trying to survive. But judgment isn't moved by stories. It doesn't care about your version. It knows what you did, what you didn't do, what you chose not to stop. You can paint over the cracks all you want, but the foundation remembers. So while they're out there pretending, posing, posturing, judgment is already in motion. No announcement, no warning, just the slow unraveling of everything they thought was untouchable. And by the time they notice, well, it's already seated across from them, smiling. Masks. Oh, people love their masks. Not the Halloween kind. Not the fun kind. No, I'm talking about the daily ones, the ones made of smiles and compliments and polite little lies. The ones people wear to survive their own reflection. You think anyone really walks around as themselves? Please. That's the scariest costume of all, so they cover up, hide the rot, dress it up in charm, ambition, decency. But here's the punchline: those masks won't save you when the truth shows up. See, the truth doesn't care how good your acting is. Doesn't care how long you've been rehearsing. When it arrives, it doesn't knock. It rips. It tears through every layer you've built like a hurricane through a paper house. And suddenly there's nowhere to hide. The mask slips and what's left you, just you. No filters, no edits, no polite distractions, and most people, they're not ready for that. People get so used to pretending, they start thinking the mask is who they are. They convince themselves, they build careers on it, marriages on it, entire lives on this carefully curated character. They smile at funerals, laugh at pain, say I'm fine with a tremble in their voice and hope no one hears the crack. But the cracks always grow, because truth doesn't stay buried. It's got sharp claws and a long memory. They think if they play the part well enough, they'll be protected, that if they're nice, if they follow the rules, if they say the right things at the right time, the real them can stay hidden forever. But that's not how this game works. The truth doesn't play along, it doesn't negotiate. It's not impressed by the mask you wore to fit in, to be accepted, to avoid being seen. The moment it walks into the room, it sees everything. And when that happens, it's beautiful in the worst way. Because people panic. They scramble to hold the mask in place, to tape it back on. But the glue's already melted. The performance is over. And all that's left is the version they were too afraid to show. The version that hurts. That lies, that envies, that cheats when no one's watching and smiles when they win by stepping on someone else's spine. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being real. And real is messy, real is raw. Real doesn't always say the right thing or get applause, but it doesn't need a mask. It doesn't need a costume change just to walk into a room. That's the thing nobody tells you. Freedom isn't found in pretending to be what people want. It's in burning the script and walking out with your flaws showing. Still, people cling to the mask because it's safe, because it works for a while. Long enough to get a promotion, to get married, to be liked. But masks are heavy, and sooner or later they slip. Maybe in a quiet moment, maybe in a breakdown, maybe in a single look from someone who sees. And when it slips, it doesn't just fall. It shatters, and when it shatters, so does everything built on top of it. You can only lie to yourself for so long before the mirror starts laughing back. You can only pretend before the echo of who you really are starts pounding at the door. And the longer you keep it locked up, the louder it gets. Until one day, boom, it breaks through. And the world doesn't meet the polished, rehearsed version anymore. It meets the you that's been screaming underneath. And oh, how they run then, how they beg to go back to pretending. But the truth doesn't rewind. Once it's out, it stays, it stains, it spreads. And that's when you find out who you really are. Not the mask, not the brand, not the smile, but the person underneath. The one who is too scared to be seen, too tired to fight, too broken to pretend anymore. And here's the real kicker: when everything else falls apart, when the lights go out and the audience leaves, the mask isn't the thing that stays with you, it's the truth. And if you never made peace with it, well, it's not going to be kind. Because masks don't protect you from the truth. They delay it, they decorate it. But when it decides to collect, it doesn't ask for your costume. It asks for your soul. Survival. It's a word people throw around like they understand it. They think it means clinging to life, doing what you gotta do, fighting tooth and nail just to make it to tomorrow. That's not survival. That's desperation with a calendar. Real survival, it's quiet. It's sharp, it doesn't need to scream. It just is. And here's the twist: survival doesn't favor the loud. It favors the honest. Not the honest who write inspirational quotes or cry on camera for likes. No, not that kind, the raw kind. The bloody knuckle, no bullshit, this is who I am. Take it or leave it kind. Because when the world catches fire, and the rules burn with it, volume won't save you. Applause won't save you. But truth's bulletproof. Not pretty, not safe. But bulletproof. People talk big, they shout, they post. They brand themselves like products on a shelf. Look how brave I am. Look how strong. Look how righteous. And the second things go sideways, gone. Ghost. Curling up like scared children who just saw the dark for the first time. Because it was never real. It was noise. Volume. Performance. And survival doesn't care about performance. It wants proof. It wants substance, and if you're hollow inside, no amount of shouting will fill the hole. You ever see someone truly honest? It's terrifying. They don't flinch, they don't beg. They don't chase approval or hide behind trends. They stand there, naked in truth, and dare the world to blink first. That's the kind of person who survives, not because they're stronger, not because they're smarter, but because they've got nothing left to hide. No loose threads, no masks, nothing to protect except the core, and the core is real. That's the secret. That's the armor. When the storm hits, they don't fall apart. They've already faced it inside themselves. But the loud ones, the ones who bark the most, they're the first to go. Because noise doesn't mean strength. It means fear. It means you're trying to drown out the truth before it hears you. Like maybe if you scream loud enough, no one will notice you're empty inside. But survival hears the silence behind the noise. It sees through the slogans and the big words and the followers. It cuts through all of it like a knife. You can tell who's gonna make it. Not by how they talk, but by how still they are when everything falls. How calm, how brutally aware. The ones who stop lying to themselves, who accept the ugliness, the fear, the weakness, those are the ones who find their footing when the floor disappears. Because they've already walked through worse inside, quietly, without a spotlight, without a script. Truth isn't something you sell, it's something you carry. Like weight, like a scar. And people who carry it, they don't have time for noise. They don't argue just to be right. They don't fake strength for the crowd. They just are. And that makes people nervous. Because if someone can survive without the mask, without the performance, without the noise, what does that say about the rest of us? And oh, how the loud ones hate that. They'll call you cold, arrogant. They'll say you don't care. But what they really mean is you're not pretending like we are. And that scares us. Because pretending is safe. Pretending is the rule of the world. And when you break it, even just by being honest, they come for you. Because honesty exposes the game. And when the game is exposed, nobody wants to play anymore. But survival isn't about playing. It's about knowing when the game's rigged and walking away anyway. It's about standing there cracked and tired and saying, this is me. This is what's left. And it's enough. That's power, not the noise. Not the followers, not the claps. Just the unshakable, untouchable weight of truth resting on your bones like a crown no one can see. So while the loud ones scramble, scream, beg for relevance, beg for meaning, the honest ones keep moving. Silent. Focused. Alive. Because survival's not about who shouts the hardest. It's about who can still whisper when everything else is burning. Chaos. People treat it like a villain in some bedtime story. Something to fear, to run from, to lock the doors against. But chaos isn't the enemy. Chaos is the mirror. And the thing about mirrors, they don't lie, they don't flatter, they just reflect. Chaos doesn't choose sides, it reveals them. When everything's going smooth, when the world's wrapped in routine and comfort, everyone plays nice. Everyone's a saint. Smiles, handshakes, little performances. Oh, it's beautiful, really. A whole society of actors who've forgotten they're in a play. But bring in a little chaos, just a little, and the whole act crumbles like wet paper. Suddenly the truth leaks out. The mask slips. And what was hidden comes screaming to the surface. That's the magic of it. Chaos doesn't make people cruel or selfish or scared. It just shows you who already was. The ones who scream peace the loudest, they're the first to reach for a weapon. The ones who post about love and kindness every morning. Watch them trample over others the moment the structure breaks. See, order lets people lie. Chaos makes them honest. It's funny how people pray for truth, beg for it even, right up until it knocks on their door with bloody hands. Then it's too much, then it's unfair. But chaos doesn't care about comfort or timing. It doesn't come dressed in robes or with a speech. It crashes in, throws the table over and says, "Let's see who you really are." And then you see. You see who folds, who fights, who runs, who laughs. And the ones who laugh, oh, they're the rare ones. The ones who already made peace with the truth. Because if you've accepted the monster in your own mirror, chaos isn't scary, it's familiar. It's the world finally catching up to what you already knew. That nothing is stable, nothing is promised, nothing is owed. And when you live like that, you stop being surprised when it all comes down. But for everyone else, panic, tears, blame. The same people who mocked you for being too dark, too real, too cynical, they're the ones clawing at the walls when it all goes quiet. Because they need the lie. The illusion of control, of fairness, of reward. Chaos doesn't follow their rules. It doesn't care how much you paid or how long you waited in line. It just rips the curtain down and shows you who's been pulling the strings. Spoiler alert, it's not who you thought. They like to pretend it's random. Bad luck, a glitch, but it's not. Chaos is precise. Like a scalpel, not a hammer, it finds the weak points, the cracks beneath the paint, the secrets hidden under the floorboards. It doesn't destroy blindly, it exposes intentionally. It turns the lights on in the dark room and forces everyone to look around. And once you see, you can't unsee. That's what really terrifies them. Not the destruction, the revelation. The idea that the guide wasn't good, the system wasn't fair, the house they built wasn't a fortress, it was a trap. Built by their own hands, decorated with lies, sealed with denial. Chaos doesn't destroy what's solid. It only shatters the fragile things pretending to be strong. And then comes the scramble, the rebuilding. But they never rebuild better, they rebuild the same lie over and over, thinking maybe this time it'll hold. They call it moving on, healing, getting back to normal. But normal was the problem. Normal was the lie. And chaos. Chaos was the only truth they ever saw with their own eyes. You want to know who someone really is? Don't watch them when the lights are on and everything's going fine. Watch them when it all falls apart. Watch what they grab first, who they protect, who they blame, what they become. Chaos doesn't give anyone a script. It just tosses the pages into the fire and says, improvise. And what comes out, well, that's the truth. The politicians, the saints, the influencers, the neighbors strip away the lights and the order. And suddenly it's not about titles anymore. It's about instinct. About raw, unfiltered being. And that's when you find out who's who. Not when they speak, but when they scream. Not when they smile, but when they're cornered. Not when they plan, but when they're bleeding.